It's time for the Jim and Terry Show.
Highlight songs. The Jim and Terry Show, sounding the alarm. There's something up there. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a...
We haven't got a clue. Hi, Terry. It's good to be back in the studio, the Bob Cajun studio.
Welcome.
The Hobbit Hole. Clink, clink for real. We've just
Wow.
clinked for real. I'm
that.
here in person in Bob Cajun. Made the journey. It was a nice journey. It's good to be back. But last night I stared into the heavens for, a good 2 hours. There in the heavens were two lights. They weren't moving anywhere. Looked like they were about 2,000 feet in the air, sort of west of Lake Simcoe. And I was wondering and pondering, and my friend was wondering and pondering. Finally, we finally have it. This is it. It's making no noise. It's not moving. It's just sitting there. But where are the chaser jets? Where's the army? Where are the people running out in the backyard going, "Ah!" Apparently it's two kissing planets or something. But that was on the evening
was
of the
last night,
day,
wasn't it?
Yes, of the day that you sent me, again, that pilot's report where he confirmed.
Yes.
And by the way, that's Terry on the other mic, and I'm Jim.
Yeah, we're the Jim and Terry Show. I'm Terry.
And I'm Jim.
And we're both in the same physical space for the first time in months.
Yes, months.
Months.
So anyways, I'm the one who wanted to talk about the alien thing.
You did. UAPs instead of UFOs. Why the difference?
Because they want to make it more friendly so that people like this pilot can report easier. But apparently he's saying it's not so easy. He also said in that interview, we'll try to cover everything he said out of memory, what he said in that interview. He said, number one, they're there all the time. He said this was just one case of them being up there a lot. He also stated that, no, it wasn't anything other than something incredibly unknown and not of any adversary.
Okay, so let's paint the context for us. This is a fighter pilot who was stationed on a Navy jet
Off Florida.
San Diego, I thought it was.
No, it was Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we have two.
Jacksonville, Florida.
We have two. Is that where he's living now? Because I thought he was based on one of the carrier groups, and one is in San Diego, and one is in whatever the northern
No,
part is.
they're in training off Jackson's.
Okay.
So there is that other one that's down in California.
Yeah, which is the one we saw them lock on and follow one along.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this guy's a Navy jet. He knows what is what, and he's saying it's not a highly maneuverable Chinese weather balloon.
No, and he definitely said whatever it is. He didn't say it was alien. He didn't say it was interdimensional or angels or demons. He didn't say anything like that. But what he did say, he doesn't believe in any way, shape, or form it's any of the adversaries to America. And he thought we really need to investigate these things because they can outmaneuver us. They're not affected by strong winds. I mean, quite frankly, they can, as you said, they can go within a second from 3,000 feet into the ocean, go along the ocean for about 300 miles or kilometers, and reemerge and shoot up into the atmosphere.
Is there a splash when they hit the water?
Apparently not.
Doesn't that make you wonder?
Well, it does make you wonder.
Physical objects would splash
You would think.
because there's displacement, but
Yeah,
okay.
you would think, but I mean, he made a point of saying there are multiple instruments hooking onto this thing. It isn't just the radar you see. The plane's equipped with all kinds of things for engaging in warfare and everything. The most sophisticated planes in the world. The thing's a solid thing, and how it can go against 300-mile winds while also traveling against those winds at 800 miles an hour. He says we just can't do that with no means of propulsion, and it's a marvel. He made it very clear, in my opinion, in that discussion, that these things are real, whatever they may be. But he's also made it clear that he don't think it's anything human. So
I think
what is it?
We're going to have to get Dan Brown, Tom Hanks, Dan Brown the writer, Tom Hanks the actor, and do a sequel to Angels and Demons, because we're going to find out at some point, what are these craft? Are they craft even? We don't even know that.
And is there anything living in them, or are they drones of some kind from another dimension or world? I find it fascinating. I also find it equally fascinating that it seems like very few people are interested in even knowing. I mean, even me last night, I got tired of looking at the two dots in the sky and decided to go in and watch a little bit of TV. I said, there's, aliens parked in the backyard, and I'm busy watching, some Food Network show. But my point being in this show, and I know we're limited in our time, my point being in this show that there's something really going on out there and has been going out there for a long time, maybe all the way back to Roswell, maybe all that stuff, maybe all of it is a cover-up. I'm not quite sure. But I think these guys need to be heard and heard more.
The fighter pilots.
These fighter pilots. He said it isn't easy for them. Even now that they've renamed it AP, whatever. UAPs, to make it easier for them to report, you're reluctant to report it. You're reluctant to report because they ask you what you think it is, and you say, I think it's something far superior to what we have, and I don't believe any of our adversaries have such. Okay, so what are you saying? What's he actually saying? Then it's not ours.
That's all he's saying. It's not ours.
It's not ours.
And it's not anybody we know.
Yeah, it's not anybody we know.
Okay.
And that is interesting, even to the point where he said, just for defense purposes. That's it. Whatever's above us, just for defense purposes, the governments need to know what these things are.
We don't have the technology to defend ourselves, Jim. And there's no indication, or correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you told me of some stories about nuclear weapons bases in the U.S. Midwest where these things were hovering or turning off the switches.
Yeah, and I know the United States, and I can understand why they don't want to admit that. We saw Russia, in the midst of Biden's visit to Ukraine, launch a ballistic missile, and it failed.
Yes.
What's the chances of that? I mean, really? I mean, they've had these missiles forever.
That's a problem.
Well, that could be the problem, I admit. But could it be something else made sure that was not going to disrupt anything or cause fear?
What are you saying? That Biden's a lizard person and
Not
that
at
they
all.
control the
Not
Soviet
at all.
arsenal?
Not at all. What would have been smart is if Biden had said, Putin, let that be a lesson to you. Indicating they're
on our side.
No, indicating America had some way of dismantling your missiles. But I couldn't help thinking the timing of that was incredible, and that they launched it obviously to give the finger to Biden and ended up giving the finger to themselves. That's kind of interesting to me.
It is interesting. Now, they're not adversaries that we know. Are they adversaries at all? Because I don't recall any encounter between a fighter jet and one of these things. So I know they said they got close and they came up in between a formation.
Yeah, they had to scatter themselves, but
there's
that's
no
not
contact.
That's not shooting you down.
No.
That might be. I mean, that one pilot said that they have a secret place. We've mentioned this in the show before. They have a secret place where they're supposed to retreat to.
Yeah.
And it might be 35 miles away, but the plane turns and goes there, and then they regroup. And they had a secret meeting prior to that time of seeing these sightings. And then so after the sighting, and in that particular case, the craft was coming up and trailing his jet. So he took off to the secret place and found it waiting for him.
Well, it's not so secret then, is it?
Well, that's what he said. This was in a secret room. How did it know where I was going?
Yeah, so the technology seems to be very far in the future from wherever we are.
Whatever it is, and I just happen to be one of those brave humans that say, yes, I do believe there's something really, really advanced out there that we don't know what it is. And I find it interesting. And I have no problem. I don't read between the lines when officials are sort of sideways telling you, yeah, there's something there, but we're not going to tell you what it is.
Let me throw this one out to you. Ancient book ancient book. A book on ancient technology. I forget the author. It'll come to me in some moment while I'm sleeping,
Not
I'm sure.
Chariots of the Gods. is it?
Chariots of the Gods.
Oh, okay.
And so you know about all the Nazca lines and all that stuff. Stuff you can only see from high altitudes, and
Yeah.
they had no high altitudes
Yeah.
2,000 years ago. So how do they design all this stuff, and for whom was all this designed?
Well, and the other thing is something that's long forgotten is the crop circles.
Yeah.
Like I saw a program on crop circles. They weren't saying anything about anything. They were just showing them.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
they were so intricate. How do you do that in the middle of the night? Two guys with a board.
And a flashlight.
Yeah, and a flashlight. I'm sorry, there's something going on there. And then nobody notices. Nobody sees them. They just come and go just magically.
So we're now expanding the possibilities from UAPs to maneuverable Chinese weather balloons to crop circles, and the Nazca lines in Peru. Where does it all end? Is there a convergence of all these things?
Well, don't you kind of hope so? Yeah, I don't know what I'm hoping for. Is it annihilation of Earth? Are they taking over for our resources? Or are they just observers and they've been told by some other power, you only look and do not interfere? I don't know.
Sounds like a Starship Enterprise mandate. Don't interfere with the technology of the planets that you visit.
But whatever they are, they're there.
They're there. We're picking them up on devices that are meant to detect
Yeah.
our stuff.
Yeah, and the new term, UAPs, isn't really helping the pilots much. They're still being
No.
ostracized.
No.
They take their career on the line as soon as they come back and say,
Yeah.
"I encountered a UAP."
You get branded as
You
one
get
of the...
branded as one of the wackos.
You saw what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by
Well,
the
is there
way-
a Nazi base of UFOs in Antarctica? Stay tuned. That could be
tuned,
another Jim and Terry show where we ponder the improbable, not necessarily impossible, but not likely there. Take care for
Sometimes
now.
it's
The Jim and Terry show live in the Hobbit Hole. And Bob Cajun. I'm Terry.
I'm Jim.
Together, we're still two guys with a coffee.